Okay, so for those who don't know, this is lightning talks. There is a time limit of 5 minutes. There isn't really, therefore, time to answer questions or ask questions, and ideally it should be done without visual presentation aids at all. So, first up we have Cesco, and to save time, the Karen we have, is that Karen who is there? It is, brilliant. You'll be second. So first up we have Cesco.
Okay, this time in English, I already said it in Italian. We are organizing a polyglot workshop in Italy, in Sardinia. Beautiful place, excellent food. In 17th to 19th of June, so Friday to Sunday. The teachers will be Judith Meyer, Sophie Kaflisch and me, auf Deutsch. And we are going to have, so the target is a group of students, high school students, 20 to 30, but it is open to everyone, of course. If you want the program, you can go into the Polyglot, so there are two Facebook groups, one is Polyglots and one Polyglots the community. In both I have created the event with the program and the details. More or less in the program we have conversation, everything will be mostly in Italian, so if you want to practice Italian it's a great opportunity. And in the program we have introduction to phonetics, introduction to Esperanto, Chinese, Sardinian, and conversations in English, French, Spanish, German, and French. Then polyglot games and polyglot songs, and then a trip on Sunday into an archaeological site near there. That's all, more or less. The cost is very similar to here, it's 75 euros per day, all included. So the seminar, a place in double room, in hostel, and the food. And from my side, it's everything. Any questions? Who wants to join? Maybe.
C'è in vicino di Cagliari?
Yes, oh, good question. Yeah, you have to fly to Cagliari, and then it's 1 hour by train from Cagliari. So, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Cesco. Next up we have Karen. Is Max in the room? Lovely, thank you. You'll be up afterwards.
Hello, my name is Karen. I was born and brought up in London. It's my first Polyglot gathering this time, and I'm very happy to be here. It's been fantastic. In London I work as a teacher with English pronunciation. And obviously everybody here being polyglots has basically no problem with the pronunciation of what I'm about to say, but the famous or infamous TH sound in English may be able to be made easier to pronounce with a few tricks. So forgive me if you already know everything I'm about to say, but just from having spoken to a lot of students, I've found these two things quite useful, and even if you don't need them, perhaps you have friends or family who might be having difficulty with this sound. So the famous or infamous TH sound, as we pronounce it in English, sometimes can be a voiceless and sometimes a voiced v. And a lot of my students, I find, have been taught previously to really stick the tongue out of the mouth in a very exaggerated way, in a kind of shape. Although this can give a very nice sound in one word in the classroom, unfortunately it doesn't really work when the person then wants to speak fluently and at a high speed. And of course that means that when they go and speak normally to their friends, they go right back to thinking instead of thinking. So one thing which seems to work reasonably well is that actually if you look at native speakers, they are not sticking the tongue out of the mouth really that much. So all you need to do, and because I'm holding this actually I can't show you that well, but if you just place the tip of the tongue touching the back of the upper teeth, you actually can't see the tongue very well, you can still have the same effect by forcing the air out between the tongue and the teeth to make the same sound. Might need a bit of practice, but eventually you'll get it. And because that is a much more time efficient and effort efficient way of making this sound, it should hopefully make it much clearer in your connected speech. So that's one thing. The second thing is that you can sometimes make the TH easier to pronounce by modifying the sound that immediately precedes it. So if you have a word that ends in a t, for example, and I'll just give the example of the word at, and if you can just humour me by repeating it after me, at. It's got a very, very clear t sound. And if I then say the phrase at the, what happened to my T? It's softened, absolutely. It's softened, it's duller, it's actually not clear at all. And the difference is that when you do a t, the tip of the tongue touches the gum just behind the teeth, but does not touch the teeth themselves. And that's a major difference between the t in English, which is very sharp, and the de sound, which you often get in languages such as Spanish, which is duller and softer. When you then join at the, you take you move the tongue forward so that it touches the teeth, so that it's already in the correct position for you to do the TH immediately afterwards. This speeds the whole process up, it's much more natural. Paradoxically, by making it duller, you're actually making it more natural, because that's just how a native speaker will do it. So you can do that with other sounds, but I can see the time is running out. So if anyone's interested, then I'm happy to talk about it again afterwards. Thank you very much.
Awesome, thank you, Karen. So Max is next. Whilst we're waiting, is Ivan around?
Yep.
Okay, you'll be afterwards. So Max first, please.
Yes.
Salut à tous, je vais parler en français et je vais parler des relations entre les Français et l'Allemand. Premièrement, avons-nous des Français ici? D'accord. C'est la minorité, c'est très bien. N'hésitez pas à jeter des baguettes. D'accord. Je suis étudiant pour l'interprétation et traduction du français, allemand et l'anglais. Donc, en Munich, j'ai des enseignants français. Et vu que... Oui, je commence avec l'histoire de la France et de l'Allemagne. En bref, on peut dire ils sont comme deux mecs qui se rencontrent dans un bar. Et dans ce bar, ils boivent de bière, du vin bien sûr, et il se passe que ils se développent en dispute. Donc, on se casse la gueule, et après qu'ils sont battus, après la lutte, ils sont devenus les meilleurs amis. Donc aujourd'hui, la France et l'Allemagne, ils sont les meilleurs amis de l'Europe presque. L'Allemagne et la France, ils sont les forces les plus efficaces d'économie de l'Union européenne. Donc il y a beaucoup des entreprises qui sont en collaboration franco-allemande. Donc il y a beaucoup des entreprises qui ont des difficultés interculturelles. Et on peut se voir dans quand on se rencontre pour parler des affaires. Donc j'ai entendu parler où je l'ai expériencé, les dîners où on commençait avec 30 minutes à 60 minutes de l'apéritif. Pour un Allemand, c'est pas très efficace, franchement. Mais quand on parle des choses quotidiennes qui ne sont pas forcément reliées à des affaires, les Allemands peuvent devenir moins patients. Et après ça, on peut continuer à des affaires. Et les Allemands peuvent devenir un peu plus impatients parce qu'on parle encore des choses quotidiennes, de beau temps, de mal temps. Mais c'est pourquoi que cette discrépance existe. En France, d'après ce que j'ai entendu dire, que j'ai entendu parler, il y a beaucoup de la pression sur les élèves à performer mieux et bien et dans l'école. C'est vrai? Pensez-vous? Pense-toi. Ah, surprise. Tu sais pas? C'est pas? Oui, j'ai entendu parler que la pression force plus de concurrence. Donc, pour faire confiance à des autres gens, il faut qu'on parle. Il faut qu'on parle des choses quotidiennes et pas des affaires. Alors, avant qu'on commence avec des affaires, il faut apprendre à se connaître. Et pour les Allemands, je sais que quand je suis dans le supermarché et quand je prends les trucs dans mon sac, dans la casse, je transpire presque si je ne suis pas assez vite. Donc, c'est pourquoi on veut être plus efficace pour ne pas causer un bouchon. J'ai 2 secondes, donc merci.
Thank you, Max. Ivan, or Ivan, is next, and whilst waiting, so is it the same name I couldn't read yesterday? I do apologise. Würfel, is it? Würfel. Okay, you'll be afterwards. Lovely. So Ivan, first of all, please.
Hi everyone, I work for Itaki, my name is Granting, but today I want to talk to you about a very different thing, and it's an organization called Wikitongues, wikitongues.org, and language preservation. So, backgrounder, it's estimated that currently there are about 7,000 languages that are spoken throughout the world. Obviously, the most popular 200 to 300 have documentation and books, and we learn them and we have access to them. But there's this huge amount, 5,000 to 6,000 languages that we know of, but don't really have any consistent study of. We don't really have a lot of materials. As the human animal, we just don't have a lot of exposure to this, and a lot of these languages are in danger of dying out. So here's a scary statistic. Every 14 days, another language of the world that is currently spoken dies, disappears entirely. A lot of these are undocumented. A lot of these are not written down. There's not really video recordings. And the ones that do actually have recordings tend to be placed in ivory towers. Of course, National Geographic has a great program that deals with endangered languages, and they support the study and documentation of them. The Max Planck Institute for Psycholinguistics does an amazing job as well. But a lot of these are very traditional institutions, and as I feel like a lot of you would agree, having access to freedom of information, having access to information, to recordings of endangered languages is an important part. Simply having native language material in the world is important, and the internet exists. We're able to share wonderful, awesome things. So what I want to talk about is the project of wikitongues.org. They started out by creating a YouTube channel and a website where people simply submit their volunteer videos of interviews of people speaking rare and endangered languages. I myself have submitted 4, and actually this conference recorded a Sami interview that will be transcribed and submitted to them in the next couple of weeks. And what I want to do actually is talk about how easy it is to actually access these languages. We tend to talk about endangered and rare languages as if they're these things out in the jungle somewhere, which a lot of them are, yes. But at the same time, my first real brush with this idea was I was going to Bali. I wanted to have a nice vacation with surfing and sun and beach. And I realized, looking at the UN map of endangered languages, that there's a very unique language there. It's a sign language called Kata Kolok. It's native to Bali, and it's native to just this one village in Bali, and has about 1,000 speakers, or rather signers. So while I was on vacation, I managed to swing by there, spend a few days, make friends with the deaf community of the village, who are really kind, very nice, and actually sat down with them, learned a little bit of the Kolok language, and recorded interviews, which now you can see if you go to the Wikitongues video channel and look for Kata Kolok. There's an interview of a farmer that I did, really not so much out of my way. So if you have interest in this, if you speak a unique language, you have friends or parents or grandparents that speak a language that is now being displaced by a language shift, simply pay a little bit of attention, find something curious about it, and creating any content whatsoever is sorely lacking. So if you can write about it or transcribe it or make a video as simple as someone speaking for 5 minutes, it helps a lot, and it's really cool, and it might help us maybe not preserve these languages. This is not necessarily a job, but document them, have a corpus of information that will be useful for later. Final thing, this is what I usually do in a presentation about this topic, is why bother with rare and endangered languages? Obviously this is preaching to the choir. We all find languages intrinsically interesting, intrinsically cool, but besides that, there's neurodiversity that is embedded in the language. Being able to understand the mechanics of a different language, for example, the languages where there is no left or right but only north, south, east, west, shows interesting insight into the way humans process information, process language, and losing that would be dire. And the most selfish argument for why we should care about these rare and endangered minority languages, which is a very strange and loaded term, so is a lot of these populations actually live very close to their local environment. They have thousands of years of embedded cultural information locked within them about the natural world. So even if we don't care about the cultural bit, even if we don't care about language in and of itself, it's highly likely that the cure for cancer, if it comes from, let's say, the Amazonian rainforest, it will be narrated in a language that's native to the Amazonian rainforest, and this is why we should all care. Thanks.
Lovely, so thank you. Next up we have Würfel, and after that Shawnee. Shawnee in the room, lovely, you'll be afterwards. So we have Würfel first.
Ja, die Gabel, die Löffel, die Messer. Also wer Deutsch lernt, der weiß, es ist manchmal schwierig, immer das richtige Geschlecht zu treffen bei den Wörtern, und dann ist dafür im Plural auch noch dasselbe Artikel wie für die weiblichen Formen. Das ist natürlich ein bisschen merkwürdig. Geht mal jetzt 6000 Jahre bis 3000 Jahre zurück. Die Indogermanen, man weiß nicht genau, aber liegt uns ungefähr in den Ebenen zwischen Schwarzen Meer und Kaspischem Meer, also nördlich davon. Und wir haben lange Zeit überhaupt keine Geschlechter in der Sprache gehabt, aber dann hatte man die Idee und hat zuerst die männlichen gekennzeichnet, und zwar solche, also die aktiv Handelnde sind. Und man sieht das in den bisschen lateinischen, griechischen Wörtern durch die Endung mit dem S am Ende, also der Freund, der Handlung macht, das ist der Amicus mit dem S am Ende. Das erklärt schon mal, warum ich wenn ich den rufe, ihn nur Amice rufe, weil der da nicht der Handelnde ist, deswegen der Vokativ. Die nächste Stufe ist dann, dass man die Dinge, die sozusagen Objekte der Handlung sind, mit einem M gekennzeichnet hat. Am Ende zum Beispiel Jugum, das Joch, das nie selbst handelt. Das ist dann sozusagen das Neutrum. Man weiß das so ein bisschen über die Entstehungsreihenfolge, weil zu dem Zeitpunkt die Indogermanen angefangen haben, Wanderschaften anzutreten. Sie sind um das Schwarze Meer, um das Kaspische Meer herumgewandert. Es gibt dann die anatolischen Sprachen, die sind zwar ausgestorben, aber relativ gut dokumentiert, wo es dann nur 2 Geschlechter gibt. So, und jetzt gibt es von diesem Neutrum eine Pluralform. Man hat das zuerst für Dinge benutzt, die so immer so zusammenhängen sind. Also im Deutschen zum Beispiel das Land hat im Plural auch die Lande, wenn sie zusammenhängen, die Niederlande, die Rheinlande. Diese Wörter hat man zunächst mit dem Singular benutzt. Im Lateinischen kriegen die dann die Endung a, juga, die Joche. Im Deutschen gibt es natürlich dann auch noch die Länder, also wenn man jetzt von Australien, Japan und Brasilien spricht, dann hängen die nicht mehr zusammen, hat man auch eine andere Pluralform. Und da hat man eben angefangen, bei solchen Sachen dann auch ein Pluralverb zu benutzen. Das führt aber dazu, dass nicht alle diese Neutra in den Plural gerückt sind, sondern manche, vor allem abstrakte Begriffe, blieben weiter mit dem Singular im Gebrauch. Das wurde dann aber plötzlich so zu einer Art neuem Geschlecht, das weibliche, deswegen auch das A, genauso wie eben Neutrum Plural im Lateinischen, für weibliche Formen, die natürlich dann auch einen eigenen Plural bekommen haben und auch das M, um sie in den Gebrauch als Objekt für den Akkusativ zu kennzeichnen. Das erklärt dann auch, warum in allen indogermanischen Sprachen, wenn ihr eine Ausnahme findet, dann hätte ich die auch gerne mal, es für das Neutrum keine eigenen Akkusativformen gibt, sondern immer Nominativ und Akkusativ gleich sind, weil natürlich schon die Kennzeichnung als Objekt durch das M gegeben war und man deswegen keine eigenen Form brauchte für den Fall, dass es eben als Objekt im Sinne eines Akkusativkasus benutzt wird. Und das erklärt jetzt so eine ganze Menge von diesen Zusammenhängen. Jetzt später hat man natürlich die Artikel in den germanischen Sprachen eingeführt, also die Grenze läuft so durch Dänemark. Im Süden davon stellt man den Artikel voran, im Norden stellt man ihn hinten an. Aber dadurch ergibt sich natürlich dann für das Deutsche, dass ich die weiblichen Formen natürlich mit dem Pluralartikel gekennzeichne, wie ich das Neutrum Plural auch mit dem Artikel die versehe, weil es ja ursprünglich keinen Unterschied gab. Und diese Zusammenhänge der Entwicklung erklären so ein bisschen, in welcher Reihenfolge die gestanden sind. Also erst männliches Geschlecht, dann sächliches Geschlecht, dann weibliches Geschlecht. Und diese Unterscheidungen sind also nicht so, wie manche Leute annehmen, einfach, ach ja, man hat mal so zwischen Männern und Frauen unterschieden und dann hat man da so eine Geschlechtertrennung eingeführt und dann gab es Dinge, die passten nicht so in die Kategorie und die hat man dann sächlich genannt. Das ist erst so eine nachträgliche Bezeichnung. Und im Grunde ging es darum, was sind handelnde Personen, was sind Personen, Dinge, die als Objekt auftreten und was sind abstrakter. Um ein Beispiel zu nennen, eine Frau sozusagen als Handelnde auftritt, zum Beispiel als Gebärerin, dann heißt natürlich auf Lateinisch auch Genitrix, mit einem S am Ende und nicht mit einem weiblichen A. Das ist doch aus dieser Sache auch ganz logisch und zeigt also, dass es nicht darum geht, hier irgendwelche biologischen Geschlechter abzubilden. Vielen Dank.
So thank you, Virgil. Next up we have Shawnee, and after that Daniel in the room. Brilliant, you'll be afterwards. Thank you, Shawnee.
Hi. Well, I have kind of 2 points that are related, so depending on the time. I wanted to talk about fan culture and how you can harness it to your learning process. So how many of you are watching TV series in the target languages? Okay, and how many of you belong to a fan base of those TV series or whatever? You don't. So yeah, so this is something that I found out that can be really, really helpful. So I'm going to talk about Spanish, which is my primary language in which I did this. I started studying Spanish when I was in my late teens, and I didn't really plan it this way, it just happened. So I started watching series, Argentinian series, but later Spanish series. When I was more or less at my B1, B2 level, I started really engaging in forums. You know, that was back at the time where forums were the thing, where people interacted in forums and not on social media, because it really didn't exist at that time. So then I kind of, you know, at the beginning I was struggling with the language, but as the time went by, and I wasn't focusing really on my difficulties, but more on the conversation and on the interaction and on the topic, which was the series or the actors. And I started getting to know people, and my skills were getting better. And also what happens with certain series is that people write fan fiction, which is something you can follow. And this is something that really boosted my Spanish, my colloquial Spanish, because people usually write in a more colloquial level. And yeah, so and right now, right before coming here, I spent a week in Spain, and I actually stayed at the houses of a couple of friends that I got to know through this medium. So, and obviously, I talked to them in Spanish and all that. So, sorry. So yeah, so this is a point of thought for you to something that you can do to boost your language skills. And another point. Have any of you been to Ruslan's lecture about Soviet movies? Yeah, so this reminded me something that I thought about in my language learning experience, that when you get to a more advanced level, this is more or less the point where you start noticing that people use kind of references, cultural references to certain events or movies, like what Ruslan, the Ruslan's lecture was about Soviet movies and how people in everyday life, they tend to quote things from movies, that this is something you can use, to sound more Russian and, more, like a regular speech. Yeah, so I thought about it, that it happens in a lot of languages, or in all of them, that people tend to refer or to borrow, phrases from cultural, I call it cultural products. It can be a movie, it can be, a cult movie, it can be, political events. And I was thinking it would be great if there would be an online resource where you could go, say you're studying Spanish, for example, and you could see a list of cult movies and political events that people tend to refer to in everyday expressions. So I don't know whether it exists. Yeah, it exists.
At least for German, there is a list on Wikipedia called Liste der geflügelten Wörter, which is essentially what you're describing.
Okay, yeah, so I was going to say that if it exists, you can tell me. And if it are, I don't know, it's just an idea that I have that I would love to participate in, or to contribute to, or if anybody likes the idea and would like to, create something like that. So this is an idea I had, that maybe we could team together and make something like that. That's all.
So, vielen Dank, Shawnee. Und nächster hatten wir Daniel, und dann kommt Cristina. Is Cristina here? So first up, Daniel.
Hallo, ich bin der Daniel. Ich werde das auch auf Deutsch und auf Englisch machen. Erstmal will ich mich einführen. Meine Familie stammt aus Deutschland, meine Großeltern kamen aus Leipzig, aber die waren Juden, deswegen mussten sie nach England ziehen, gerade vor dem Krieg. Deswegen ist es schon wirklich erstaunlich, dass ich hier stehe. Mein Großvater wird das gar nicht glauben, dass ich hier in Berlin stehe und Deutsch spreche. Er wird das wahrscheinlich total ablehnen, aber so ist es. Und ich begeistere mich für Sprachen und für Akzente, und ich will heute einen kleinen Einführungskurs machen in die verschiedenen Akzente der britischen Inseln, weil der Michael das gemacht hat, also früher, und das hat allen gefallen, so ich mache das jetzt. We've already had a talk about Welsh earlier on, and it was very hot in the room. So I want to give a little introduction to the Welsh accent for anybody that hasn't heard it. Now, a key thing when you're understanding different accents is to have a hooker word. So with Welsh, the key word is element for me. Everyone say element. 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 Now, of course, you have to exaggerate it slightly, but the word element is very helpful for Welsh. Now, if we want to move over just across the sea to go over to Ireland, we do something a little bit different. Okay, this is how it works. We start off in Northern Ireland, and you say one phrase very slowly, which is Tu ge mean. Did you understand what that phrase was? Tu ge mean. Any ideas? Two gay men, exactly. So this is for Northern Irish, two gay men. You can also supplement now. Two gay men now. And that's Northern Irish, Belfast, Ulster, that sort of area. Now, if you want to go slightly more southern, as I've just met lovely Rory here from Dublin, or in the region of Dublin, you have to soften the accent slightly. So it's very important, if you are listening to an Irish accent, that you can distinguish between the northern and the southern. Does that sound different from two gay men? Okay, good. We then move over to Scottish. Now, Scottish is a whole different kettle of fish, right? I hope you can appreciate that there's quite a big difference. If any of you have ever been confused by the British accents, you can see that two gay men and element is very different from the kettle of fish. For me, kettle of fish is a very helpful hooker to remember. I know hooker has other meanings, but in this case, it just means the word that I'm using to remember what to say. Now, you can actually go quite far away from the British Isles and still maintain a strong accent, right? So this is, of course, which accent? South African, exactly. And a key word, I've got a South African friends who I live in London, and people say, has it. Everyone say, has it. Has it. It's like, how are you? And then also there's a nice thing in South Africa, they call a tangerine, they call it a nachi, which I think is a nice word, a nachi. Now, the final one that I want to do, because I'm Londoner, born and bred in London, I want to talk to you in the Cockney rhyming slang and teach you a little bit of Cockney rhyming slang, because you might not have heard it before. Is it difficult to understand when I talk like this, like a true Londoner? No. No? Okay, good, right. So, but if I say, I just need to go with the trouble and strife to do the Hampstead Heath, what would that mean? I just need to go with the trouble and strife to do my Hampstead Heath.
I have to go to the bathroom and to brush my teeth?
Yes, I have to go with my wife to brush my teeth. I just got to go with trouble and strife to do my Hampstead Heath. So in Cockney rhyming slang, words rhyme trouble and strife, wife, and Hampstead Heath, or Hampstead Heath, which is an area in North London near where I live, becomes teeth. So that's a sort of advanced level, but if you hear people talking like that, you should know that that is Cockney rhyming slang. Have I got more time, or is that? Oh, 54 seconds. Any more accents that anyone wants to hear? Liverpool, right, so you can do like that, to do a Liverpoolian accent. The nice thing about the Liverpool accent is you just have to remember to put a sh in there every now and then, and it's absolutely fine. Are you from Liverpool?
No, can you do a Geordie?
Now, Geordie is a very difficult accent, but all I can say in the Geordie accent, which is the accent from Newcastle, is what we're having for tea like, which means what we're having for tea like. And you've also got the West Country accents. I'm starting an Irish accent, but if you want to do the West Country, which is sort of the lower half of England, you might start talking like that in somewhere like Bristol, and then you go over and over and down right through Somerset, and you go right down into Devon, and I've got 6 seconds left, and then you go right into Cornwall, you bury in the sour Peter Sam in Cornwall like that, because it's very thick, but that's a thick West Country accent for you. Thank you very much.
So, Corn, Dank und Daniel und Renata estas Cristina. Ĉu Anya estas ĉi tie? Yes. Oh. Vi kommt poste.
Thank you. Hi everyone. My name is Cristina. I'm from Norway and I am here to speak about the Super Challenge. Now in my head I kept calling it the Super Channel, so if I do that, just know that I made the Super Challenge. Now the Super Challenge was born 4 years ago out of 3 sources. The first one was that I was studying Russian, and somehow, in spite of the fact that I was a high A1, I had managed to push through an Agatha Christie in Russian. And understanding almost nothing, but I did understand who got killed and who killed him. The second source for this challenge was the 6-week challenge of Judith. Because I usually almost died every time there was one because I worked so hard. But it told me that the format of a challenge was very useful for a learner. The third source for this challenge was the fact that when I was 14, I lived in France. I started reading a book. In the beginning, I understood nothing at all. And at the end, I understood quite a lot of French. So the combination of these 3 elements made me think, if I feel I can learn a lot from one book, how much couldn't I learn from reading 100 books? My next thought was, okay, reading 100 books is fine, but you need oral input or you'll speak too bookish. So my second thought was, let's add 100 films. Now, of course, my plan originally was to just do this on my own, but since I was on the website How to Learn Any Language basically day and night, because that used to be my virtual home, I figured let's see if there's 3 or 4 others who would like to join me. So I presented the idea, and it actually became hugely popular. Because people did realize that, much like Lydia said in her presentation, if you push with a lot of input, that will enhance your languages dramatically. So now, just a week ago, we started the 3rd Super Challenge. I don't know exactly how many is in, but you will be able to say more about that. The point about, or an additional advantage about this, is that we have a Twitter bot that will register how much you read. And you may think, hey, it started a week ago, I don't really want to do this. But it's over 20 months. So 20 months is quite a long time. So even if you're a week behind, that doesn't really matter. And it really dramatically does enhance your language skills. I don't know if you would like to just say how to get on the Twitter bot, and then I can have questions afterwards if you have any.
Okay, if you have a Twitter account, you can just look for @LangChallenge on Twitter, and it'll have the website. If you don't, the website is SC for Super Challenge 2016-17.languagelearners.org, languagelearners-.org.
Okay, since he says I don't have time for questions, I can just tell you what you probably would ask me, which is, what if I'm studying a language where I don't have 100 books? Well, that's no problem. You just take the amount of books you have, and then you read them again and again. So in principle, if you have one book, you can read it 100 times, and I swear to God, you will know every word in that book by the time you read it 100 times. Most of us, by the time we've read it 20 times, will have found other sources. And it doesn't have to be just a regular book. You can read poetry, you can read anime, you can read pretty much anything. And as for films, we also allow audio, podcasts, pretty much anything. So the point is to get heaps of input. So I still have 55 seconds. Can I allow them to have questions if they have any?
It's not mandatory to use it all.
No? Okay. Well then, thank you very much.
Donc, merci beaucoup Cristina, et prochain, Anya.
Hello, my name is Anya. I live here in Berlin, and guess what? I love to learn languages. I think each of you has a reason why you love to learn languages. Have you ever asked yourself what is your reason why you are passionate about it? Actually, I would really love to know from each of you what's your kind of, what do you love about it? I think what I love about it, when I ask myself that question, is it has always fascinated me to get to know other people, to know more about them, and to find out what they love. Also, I love bringing people together and connect them. So that's what's driving me. Learning languages is one thing that came out of that. Another one is that I love bringing people together. I told some people yesterday that I was organizing so-called vision talks, where I invite people to share their visions and dreams. And another approach that I have developed is, I have experienced that asking questions is a very strong thing. And in this conference we have learned a lot about how can I come across procrastination and how can I develop the discipline to learn. But if you have studied a little bit of how do you actually learn, or how do children learn, then they don't make plans. They just do what they love and they play. So questions, playing, curiosity, that brought me to developing a game. So what I did is I brought my game here. It's a polyglot game, and last night we were playing it for the first time. So I saw that there are 2 people here in the room that were in the group last night. I'm very happy about it, so thank you very much for playing it with me last night. And I want to briefly show it to you. Actually, one reason I'm very grateful to you is that you participated, but the reason why I'm standing here actually is because those guys encouraged me to present it here, so that's actually the reason why I stand here. So this is how it looks like. Then we have a dice, and we have this. I've been wondering how you call this in English. the little figure that represents yourself, that you use to walk along this. And then we have playing cards. And these playing cards, they contain questions. Like one question could be, what do you love about learning languages? Would anybody like to answer that? Just 1 or 2 sentences? Yes?
To sound like a native as much as I possibly can.
Thank you. Anybody else? In that case, I would, before I really go to explain how the game works, I wonder if you guys mind, or if one of you would like to say 1 or 2 sentences of what you think or what you experienced, what the game is about, and if you found it useful. Yeah? Thank you so much.
Well, the game was useful in a number of ways. First off, for practicing language, because you notice how there were different colors on the board. Those colors corresponded with different languages, so you would actually read and answer these questions in the other languages. So it was challenging to answer these profound life questions in another language, and you also got to know the people you were playing with very well, if you can see it. Perhaps in a way more than simple small talk would allow you to know someone. And that was really fun, and it was an introspective game, but a fun game. And I recommend giving it a try if Anya makes it available in the future.
Thank you so much, Nick. Yeah, I think this could be a tool, especially for introverted people. If you stand here and there are so many people, and maybe you think, oh, should I really approach someone and say, where do you come from, which languages do you speak? It's always the same questions. So what I experienced is that, these questions really unlock person and bring them to talk to each other. And I'm closing. My message or my question for you, or my suggestion, if there's a conference or if you like to give it a try, to test it, I will be here. I will be very happy to play with you. I will be happy to facilitate any sessions with it, and if somebody has an idea how I could approach to produce it, then please talk to me. Thank you.
Und jetzt kommt Judith.
Very impromptu lecture because Cristina just mentioned the super challenge, and I love the first super challenge. I did not quite study as much as I had wanted, but I did participate, and it did help me study a whole lot more Chinese books than I otherwise would have read. So yes, definitely participate in the super challenge, try it. And in that vein, I would also recommend the 6-week challenge, which is about studying the most hours. So if you're like, especially as a beginner, but not just as a beginner, you can compete with your friends or enemies in terms of how many hours you manage to study over 6 weeks' time. And it also works with a Twitter bot and a little high score, and you can look at some pretty neat graphs of which study you did and whether you did more Anki or more movies or I don't know. So I think it's a pretty good tool. There's also the Tadoku challenge, which is also known as read more or die. It's about reading a lot of pages of books. So if that's the only challenge, it's not like the super challenge, which is a really long challenge over 20 months. So the Tadoku is just 4 weeks or sometimes even just a 2-week session, and you try to read as much as possible. And the challenge was originally for Japanese learners because when you're learning an Asian language, it's particularly difficult to force yourself to read a lot. At the beginning it's really hard going, but afterwards it gets much easier, so it's really worthwhile to do this kind of challenge in order to help yourself read more. And I think this is something that we ought to explore more as language learners in general, this kind of gamification of our learning, and also coupled with accountability. See, I have spreadsheets that I use in order to track how much time I spend on which language and which day, and it allows me to see why am I not making any progress. It's very simple because I've only studied about 20 hours in the past 6 months. So it becomes very obvious when I'm making progress and why, or when I'm not making progress and why. For me it's helpful. But I know that a spreadsheet is not very much like a game, so I also like these challenges which allow you to compare yourself with other polyglots and see how you're doing, and maybe get a motivation. Like in the 6-week challenge, at some point you might see that your polyglot friend is just 10 minutes ahead of you, so okay, you squeeze in another 10 minutes before midnight, and it really works like that. It's silly, but this is how humans work, or a lot of us work, and it's a way to study more, which is the goal after all. And in this vein, this is also why Duolingo works, or one of the reasons, because it gamifies learning, and it shows you that you've studied so much today and your friends have studied a little bit more, or it shows you you have a long streak of days on which you studied and then today you didn't, so you have to study today in order not to lose your streak. I think Duolingo is actually pretty awful in terms of language learning content. I mean, you learn sentences like this, the duck eats a strawberry, and you don't learn the sentence turn right. Really, it's missing in the majority of courses. I have access to the back end. So there's some really big issues with Duolingo as a source of language materials, but in terms of motivation that you get from using it, it's really amazing. My mother tried about 5 different courses that I sent her for learning English, and Duolingo is the only one that she stuck with, and she actually graduated from the Duolingo course. It's especially for people who don't have a language learning habit, it might really be helpful. And the last thing I wanted to suggest in this vein is Habit RPG. Not sure who has heard of it? Okay, a few people. So this is another way, if you really want to go the gamification way. It's not just for language learning, but for any kind of tasks or habits that you want to build. You basically have an RPG character which gets stronger and levels up and can buy extra gear and different things based on how much work you get done between, or how much you do towards your goals. You can set like daily goals or habits or one-time things that you need to do. And I find it helpful sometimes. For a while I was really binging on it, now not so much, but you know, you use the tools that you can find and see which works for you. Thank you.
tiu estis la lasta, bedaŭrinde ne plu restas tempon, sed mi volas danki al ĉiuj partoprenantoj. Dankon, dankon.